the Director of Justice. For too long, Officers Brody and Miller saw the city of Magnolia as their personal fiefdom. They ran the streets with an iron fist, using intimidation and violence to maintain control. To them, every so-called trespasser was just another young black person to harass. Every act of defiance was a chance to assert their authority. But their reign of terror was about to end. When they arrested a quiet black man for simply sitting on his own porch, they believed he was powerless. Just another target, just another warning. They never bothered to learn his real identity. They never imagined they had just picked a fight with the director of the FBI. The man they had arrested, Dr. Malcolm Evers, was returning home after 25 years. The morning sun cast long shadows across the worn streets of Magnolia as his car pulled up to his childhood home. The house was a little faded, but it still held the scars of countless memories. As he stepped out, the familiar scent of magnolia and damp earth filled his lungs. Malcolm's hand tightened around his keys as he noticed curtains twitching in nearby windows. Neighbors, who were not strangers but ghosts of his past, watched him, their faces filled with caution. A gentle knock on the door broke his thoughts. It was Mrs. Edna May, a longtime neighbor, her face a mix of warmth and worry. "Lord have mercy, if it isn't little Malcolm," she said. "But what brings you back after all this time?" Malcolm gestured to the porch swing. "The house needed me," he said simply, "and maybe the neighborhood does too." Mrs. Edna May's face darkened as she spoke of the new police. "They aren't like they used to be, Malcolm. They don't know us, don't want to know us." She told him how families were losing their homes to a new development company, and those who spoke up ended up in trouble with the law. Malcolm listened intently, his investigator's mind cataloging every detail. As Malcolm settled into a chair on his porch, 2 police cruisers slowly moved down the street, their presence a deliberate act of intimidation. He raised his coffee mug, slightly, a subtle challenge. The officers stared but didn't respond, their hard eyes fixed on him as they drove by. Later that morning, as Malcolm polished his father's old brass house number, a cruiser came to a screeching halt. The door slammed and 2 officers, Brody and Miller, stepped out, their hands already on their belts. "What do you think you're doing?" Brody demanded. "I'm cleaning my house number," Malcolm replied calmly. "This is my property." Miller laughed mockingly. "Your property? Let's see some ID." As Malcolm reached for his wallet, Brody barked, "Hands where we can see them." He snatched the ID, his sneer turning confusion as he read the name. "This says you're Malcolm Evers. We've had reports of suspicious activity. This ID could be fake. Turn around and put your hands behind your back." Without a word, Brody slammed Malcolm against the wall. Cold metal bit into his wrists as the handcuffs clicked shut. "This is an illegal arrest," Malcolm said through gritted teeth. "You're using excessive force." At the police station, Brody announced proudly, "Look what we've got! A big city slicker trespassing on private property." Malcolm kept his composure. "I'd like to contact my lawyer now," he stated calmly. The booking sergeant, a heavy-set man with yellow teeth, ignored him. Chief Dalton, a large man with a flushed face, strode into the room. "You seem awful familiar with police procedure," he said, circling Malcolm. "I make it my business to know the law," Malcolm replied. He pointed to the booking sheet. "You've also listed the wrong address. The property is 1242 Oak Street, not 1224. Dalton's face twitched. "Get him his damn phone call," he growled. The conversation was brief. "This is Malcolm Evers. I'm at the Magnolia Police Department." "Yes, thank you." As he hung up, a phone on the chief's desk rang. Dalton answered, his voice suddenly uncertain. "Yes, sir. I understand, sir. We had no idea that Dr. Evers was—" A sharp voice cut through the speaker. "That's FBI Director Evers to you, Chief Dalton. Do you have any idea the magnitude of your department's actions today?" Within the hour, the station buzzed with nervous energy. Dalton's hands trembled as he unlocked Malcolm's cell. "My office." "Now," he muttered, unable to meet Malcolm's gaze. Through the glass walls of his office, the ringing phones never stopped. On one line, the state attorney general's voice boomed. Chief, you better pray those officers had their body cams on. We're sending a team to collect all footage and documentation immediately. Just as Brody burst into the office, his face red, Malcolm spoke for the first time. "Officer Brody," he said, his voice quiet but carrying an unmistakable weight. "I'd be particularly interested in your explanation for the excessive force used during my arrest." Brody backed away, tripping over his own feet. "Effective immediately." The FBI director's voice commanded over the speaker. "Officers Brody and Miller are suspended, pending a full federal investigation. Director Evers has our full support." Malcolm stood, adjusting his coat. "I'll need my personal effects returned, Chief, and I believe a state trooper is waiting to drive me home." Outside, Mrs. Edna May stood on her porch, her phone raised high, spreading the news. "That's right, baby. FBI director. They picked the wrong one this time." The victory at Town Hall felt distant as Malcolm gripped his steering wheel, driving through the dark streets of Magnolia. His phone buzzed with a text from his ally. "Anita, be careful. They're desperate now." The words had barely registered when his rear-view mirror filled with blinding headlights. A black SUV slammed into his rear bumper. The impact jolted him forward. The SUV rammed him again, harder. His car fishtailed, tires screaming on the asphalt. The SUV pulled alongside, tinted windows rolling down, revealing the glint of gun barrels. Shots shattered his driver's side window. He ducked, yanking the wheel hard right. His car slammed into a curb, the airbags deploying in a white explosion. 4 men jumped out, weapons raised. Malcolm kicked his door open and rolled out. Staying low, a bullet clipped his left arm, sending hot pain through his shoulder. He scrambled between houses, vaulted a fence, and dug behind a children's playset. He could hear his pursuers crashing through bushes behind him. Malcolm spotted a shed and, with a solid kick, splintered the door open. Inside, he pressed himself between a lawnmower and stacked flower pots. His fingers trembled as he pulled out his phone, leaving bloody smears on the screen. He needed to trigger the FBI's emergency code. Footsteps crunched on gravel outside. Malcolm held his breath, typing the numbers with agonizing slowness. He hit send just as a flashlight beam cut through the gaps in the wooden walls. His vision swam. The blood loss was getting worse. "Still here," he whispered, fighting to stay awake. Still, but the darkness was winning. Malcolm's eyes fluttered open to the steady beat of medical monitors. Handcuffs secured his right wrist to the hospital bed. "Welcome back," a familiar voice said softly. It was Anita. "The local police tried to arrest you while you were unconscious," she explained. "But the FBI stepped in. They've been guarding you around the clock." Malcolm nodded toward the handcuffs. "Mayor Sutter's last attempt to save himself? He's claiming you're a danger to the community." Anita's expression hardened. "They're calling you a fraud, a criminal, anything to discredit what you revealed at Town Hall." Malcolm pressed the call button. When a nurse appeared, he said clearly, "I'd like to hold a press conference right here, right now." News cameras crowded into his room. Microphones bristled around his bed. Malcolm's fingers found the voice recorder beneath his pillow. His voice was steady as he began. 2 days ago, I was shot for exposing corruption in Magnolia. Today, I'll finish what I started." He pressed play. The room fell silent as the mayor's voice discussing kickbacks filled the air. On his hospital room TV, Malcolm watched the coverage unfold in real time. Federal agents led a parade of handcuffed officials to waiting vehicles. Chief Dalton and Mayor Sutter, their faces drained of color, were led away. The conspiracy was unraveling in real time, broadcast to the world. Malcolm looked out at the faces below him, not at the cameras or the headlines. He saw Mrs. Edna May wiping happy tears, Anita standing proud and vindicated, and families holding their children close, finally feeling secure in their own homes. This was what justice looked like. Not just laws and courts, but people standing together, refusing to back down, demanding better, a community healing.